Felix was a little fox with a very bushy tail. His fur was a beautiful reddish-brown, and his eyes sparkled with curiosity. Felix was a gentle soul, always observing the world around him with a sense of wonder. He had a special place in the forest that he called home. He lived in a den under a big oak tree. The oak tree was ancient, with thick, gnarled branches that stretched out like welcoming arms. Felix's den was cozy and warm, filled with soft leaves and moss. It was his safe haven, a place where he felt secure and protected from the outside world. Felix liked to watch the other animals play, but he was too shy to join them. He would often hide behind the tall grass or a tree, peeking out to see the fun and games. The other animals seemed so confident and carefree, and Felix admired them from afar. He longed to be a part of their world, but his shyness held him back. Sometimes, Felix wished he could be brave enough to make friends. He would sit under the oak tree, lost in thought, imagining what it would be like to run and play with the other animals. He dreamed of laughter and companionship, of being accepted and loved for who he was. Felix thought about all the fun they were having. He watched as they chased each other, played games, and shared stories. The joy and excitement in their eyes made Felix's heart ache with longing. He wanted to be a part of their happiness, to share in their adventures and create memories together. He imagined himself playing with them. In his mind, he was running through the meadows, his bushy tail swishing behind him as he laughed and played. He could almost feel the warmth of the sun on his fur and the soft grass under his paws. It was a beautiful dream, one that filled him with hope and determination. But then he would worry that the other animals wouldn't like him. Doubts and fears crept into his mind, making him hesitate. What if they thought he was strange? What if they didn't want to be his friend? These thoughts made Felix's heart race with anxiety, and he would retreat back into the safety of his den, so he stayed hidden in the tall grass, watching and wondering. He observed the world from a distance, his heart filled with a mix of hope and fear. Each day, he promised himself that he would try to be braver, that he would take a step towards making friends. But each day, his shyness held him back. One day, Felix was watching a group of rabbits hop and play. The rabbits were full of energy, their playful antics bringing smiles to Felix's face. They chased each other around the meadow, their laughter echoing through the forest. Felix felt a pang of envy, wishing he could join in their fun. They were so carefree and happy. The rabbits seemed to have no worries, their days filled with joy and laughter. Felix admired their spirit, their ability to live in the moment and enjoy life to the fullest. He wanted to be like them, to let go of his fears and embrace the happiness that surrounded him. Felix wished he could be as carefree as they were. He longed to feel the same sense of freedom and joy, to be a part of their world. The more he watched, the more determined he became to overcome his shyness. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he was willing to try. He took a deep breath and tried to work up the courage to go talk to them. His heart pounded in his chest as he took a step forward, then another. With each step, he felt a little braver, a little more confident. Felix knew that this was his chance to make a change, to take a leap of faith and reach out to the other animals. He was ready to face his fears and embrace the possibility of friendship. Suddenly he heard a soft sob. It was faint, almost blending with the rustling leaves and the distant chirping of birds. Felix, a curious and kind-hearted fox, had been wandering through the forest, enjoying the serene beauty of nature. The sound of sobbing was unusual in this peaceful place, and it immediately caught his attention. A little rabbit was all alone. She sat in a small clearing, her tiny body trembling with each sob. The forest, usually a place of comfort and safety, seemed vast and intimidating to her. Felix watched from a distance, his heart aching for the lonely creature. She was crying behind a bush. Felix wanted to help, but he was afraid to come out of hiding. He had always been a bit shy, especially around strangers, but seeing the rabbit in such distress made him feel a strong urge to do something. He hesitated, unsure of how to approach her without scaring her even more. He didn't know what to do. Felix's heart went out to the crying rabbit. He peeked from behind a tree, his mind racing with thoughts. Should he call out to her? Should he approach slowly? The last thing he wanted was to frighten her further. He took a moment to gather his thoughts, trying to find the best way to offer comfort. He knew he had to do something. Taking a deep breath, Felix gathered all his courage. He reminded himself that sometimes a simple act of kindness could make a world of difference. With a determined heart, he decided to step forward and offer his help, no matter how nervous he felt. "Excuse me," Felix said softly. The little rabbit stopped crying and looked up. Her eyes were filled with fear and sadness, but also a glimmer of hope. Felix's gentle voice seemed to have a calming effect on her. He took a few cautious steps closer, making sure to move slowly and not startle her. Her eyes were big and wet with tears. Felix felt a surge of sympathy for the little creature. He knew that in this moment, she needed a friend more than anything. He sat down a short distance away, giving her space but also showing that he was there for her. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm here to help." The rabbit's sobs began to subside, and she looked at Felix with a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. The bond of a new friendship was beginning to form, right there in the heart of the forest. "What's wrong?" asked Felix. The little rabbit sniffed. "I'm lost. I can't find my way home." Felix wanted to help. "Don't worry," Felix said. "I'll help you find your way." The little rabbit smiled at Felix. "Thank you," she said. "My name is Ruby." "It's nice to meet you, Ruby," said Felix. "Now let's get you home." Felix and Ruby set off together. Ruby hopped along beside Felix. The sun was starting to set, and the forest was filled with long shadows. They came to a rushing stream. Ruby was scared. "I can't swim," she cried. Felix looked around for a way to cross. He saw some stepping stones. "Don't worry, Ruby," said Felix. "I'll help you." Felix carefully stepped from one stone to the next. He reached out a paw to Ruby. Together they made it safely to the other side. Ruby was so thankful to Felix for helping her. "You're so brave, Felix," she said. "I'm not so brave," said Felix. "I was scared too, but we helped each other, and that made it easier." Ruby nodded. "It's good to have a friend when you're scared," she said. Felix smiled. He liked the sound of that. As they walked, Ruby told Felix all about her family. She had so many brothers and sisters. Felix listened patiently. He wished he had a big family like Ruby's. He had always been an only child. Section 6. The Power of Friendship. They walked for a long time through dense forests and across open meadows. The journey was long and sometimes tiring, but they kept each other company, sharing stories and laughter along the way. The bond between them grew stronger with each step they took. Finally, they came to a field. Ruby recognized it immediately. Her eyes lit up with joy as she looked around, taking in the familiar sights and sounds of her home. "That's my home!" she cried, her voice filled with excitement and relief. She had been away for so long, and the sight of her home brought tears to her eyes. She pointed to a burrow beneath a willow tree. It was a cozy little home, nestled in the roots of the tree, just as she remembered it. Ruby was so happy to be home. She hugged Felix tightly, her heart overflowing with gratitude. "Thank you for bringing me back," she whispered. "Thank you for helping me, Felix," she said. "You're my best friend." Felix felt warm inside. He had never felt such a strong connection with anyone before. He had never had a best friend before. The realization made him feel special and valued. He understood the true meaning of friendship for the first time. He realized that helping Ruby had made him feel braver than he had ever felt before. The journey had not only brought Ruby back home, but had also given Felix a sense of purpose and courage. He stood tall, feeling empowered by the experience, knowing that true friendship could make one stronger and more confident. Section 7. New Adventures, New Friends. Ruby's family came out of the burrow. They were so happy to see her. Ruby introduced Felix to her family. They all thanked him for bringing Ruby home. Felix felt happy. He wasn't scared anymore. Ruby's brothers and sisters gathered around Felix. They wanted to hear all about his adventures. Felix told them about the stream and the stepping stones. They were very impressed with his bravery. Section 8. A true friend indeed. From that day on, Felix wasn't shy anymore. He played with Ruby and her brothers and sisters every day. He learned that friendship made him stronger and happier. He was so glad he had met Ruby. Felix realized that being brave didn't mean never being scared. It meant doing the right thing even when you were afraid. And it was always easier to be brave when you had friends by your side. Section 9. Braver Together. Felix wasn't afraid anymore. He learned that making friends could be a little scary, but it was always worth it. He knew that with his new friends by his side, he could face anything. Felix the Fox had found his courage, and he had found true friendship. And he knew that no matter what challenges he faced in life, he would always have his friends to help him through.